Yes, it is time to start talking about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I gotta say, I have been incredibly pumped for this game ever since like a week after E3. Yeah, not at E3, but a good few days afterwards. You see, I kind of feel like the feeling is pretty mutual. At Nintendo's E3 Direct, I'm pretty sure we all expected Retro's big announcement to be that big old Star Fox reboot that we've all been waiting for. There were even rumors at the time that it was going to be Star Tropics. Because if there's any way to play with my emotions, that was it. Don't go blindly promising Star Tropics like that. That was a very painful time. But no, instead we got Donkey Kong Country Returns again. But then after E3 had ended, I finally realized something. We were getting another Donkey Kong Country Returns, a sequel to one of the greatest platformers in the past 10 years. And then the hype finally settled in. So now that it is finally here and we finally have another game to play on the Wii U, it really goes without saying, but the hype was well worth it. This time around, DK and his crew are celebrating the Big Ape's birthday, here with a banana cake with banana frosting and a banana on top of that with some more frosting on top of that. DK sure knows how to party. But all of a sudden, ships manned by the new Viking army, the Snowmads, locate the Kong's house, and after this adorable little penguin informs their leader, this horn is blown, and out comes a freaking giant ice dragon. As all of the Kongs check out what's going on, a huge burst of icy wind blows them all off the island, completely covers everything in snow and ice, and the ship suddenly starts to fly and parks right on top of the island. I don't get that part. But man, the top of this island as of late has certainly been quite the hotspot, hasn't it? There is no real rhyme or reason as to why these guys are doing this, but I don't know, when my favorite animal ever, penguins, are being involved, I don't really question things. Just stop the bad guys the only way a bunch of jumping furries know how. So if you played Returns on the Wii or 3DS, you kinda know what to expect here, but if you haven't, this certainly isn't your typical Mario-styled 2D platformer. DK controls like your run-of-the-mill hero with the inclusion of being able to grab pretty much everything. And you can get help with Diddy Kong and newcomer partners Dixie and Cranky. Diddy lets you hover, Dixie lets you get extra air, and Cranky summons the spirit of Scrooge McDuck and uses his cane to pogo bounce on pretty much everything. And needless to say here, but Dixie and Cranky sort of make Diddy obsolete. There is never any real reason to use him over the other two, but while there are a majority of barrels that let you choose who to take, some of them are specifically for Diddy Kong, which that's good, because otherwise the poor guy would never see the light of day. You're gonna want the extra boost in air mainly because the platforming in this game is pretty crazy. What makes Tropical Freeze stick out are really how the levels all feel very naturally crafted. Levels in New Super Mario Bros., now I'd even say Kirby to an extent, all feel crafted with blocks and tiles. Obviously it works, but here every single level feels like it was handcrafted from start to finish. You explore 6 islands with at least 7 levels each, and each one has a specific idea going for it. Levels never feel recycled, and the game is constantly throwing new challenges at you left and right. Whether it's platforming on windmills, bouncing off huge blocks of jelly, speeding through a crumbling cave on top of Rambi, or even escaping from a burning forest, the variety here is pretty unparalleled when it comes to a 2D platformer. But of course, you're not just jumping around either. The always infamous minecart stages are back, as well as the rocket barrel levels from Returns, which I think besides me, almost everyone hated, so, that's nice, I guess. And trust me when I tell you this game changes up almost everything you thought you knew about these levels. They tweak with these formulas so much that these areas offer up some of the best moments in the entire adventure. Sawmill Thrill and Reckless Ride. Oh boy. Underwater stages make a grand return too. Finally! And they took the same approach as the recent Rayman games, so you have full 360-degree movement and just swim forward. DK's heavy weight definitely shows here as he's not the most agile underwater, but luckily your Kong partners give you more control here too, so that's nice. And I know it sounds awful, but there's even an entire island dedicated to water levels. It sounds like the worst thing imaginable, but just wait. There is this level called Irate 8, and it is easily one of the most intense levels in the entire series. Just, thinking about it again gets me going. It was nuts. So yeah, the game is pretty much near perfect when it comes to having solid platforming and a ton of variety. But the one big old ugly head rears its way in once again, just like it did with Returns. Yes, this game is pretty gosh darn difficult. In fact, by collecting all of the KONG letters in every level of an island, you'll unlock a temple level, which can just be off the charts difficult. But I honestly get a bit bothered by all of these people knocking the game for being too hard. You get handed banana coins left and right during the entire game, and you can take these to Funky Kong's shop, and buy items like extra lives, Diddy, Dixie, or Cranky Kong barrels to keep in reserve for when you're all by your lonesome, extra hearts, and even a balloon that revives you when you fall down a pit. Seriously, at this point, aside from taking away the mode where the game plays itself in returns, the game throws everything possible at you to let you progress further. They even mandated a second hit point for the minecarts and rocket barrels. If you can't make some of the tough jumps later on, that's really just your fault. I've even seen a few people question why the bosses don't have checkpoints. Really? Is that what we've resorted to now? Yes, the second boss in particular is pretty friggin' tough, but you don't need a checkpoint. It is honestly just a bit of a mini rant, but honestly I am totally fine with this game being difficult. There's just a great satisfaction to finally overcoming a challenge, and I can only recall like 2 or 3 times I died from something that I didn't expect. But I would honestly take that over boring level design, but that's just me. But since I did bring up Funky Kong, this is a good time to talk about the other collectibles. Aside from the KONG letters, there are these really hidden puzzle pieces in every level that unlocks concept art, of which you can buy squawks to help you find them. And really, you would think that the water levels would show the sign of a returning on guard. Poor Squawks here is still being relegated to being a mere tool. You ain't gonna see that swordfish anywhere. You can also purchase cool looking figurines for every character, as well as these sweet looking dioramas based on the islands for getting all the puzzle pieces in a temple level. The time trial mode returns as well, and is just way more addicting than it was in Returns. There is now an online leaderboard in tow, as well as the game just restarting the time when you die, as opposed to getting 30 seconds in, dying, and having the time continue when you come back. That made no sense to me in Returns. And lastly, you unlock a hard mode by beating every single level, which is 1 heart, no partners, no checkpoints, but you can play as any of the 4 Kongs, finally harking back to that awesome mode from DKC GBA, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, there is a whole lot to digest with this meaty adventure, to say the very least. Now graphically, the game does look great. From a purely technical standpoint, there isn't anything pushing the boundaries, but all of the immensely colorful environments and varied landscapes easily make up for it. Like the returning silhouette levels, just like the previous game, are a great example of that. And also, like you would expect, there are a ton of little background details all over the place, so you gotta keep your eyes peeled at all times. Again, this entire game was made with pure love and care. And since I have the benefit of being a purely independent YouTuber, I can say this next part with no remorse. Somebody, I'm not gonna name any names, it's just a spot consisting of games, said that the environments were bland. Oh boy, let's point and laugh, that's really cute. But more importantly, the soundtrack. Okay, so there was a moment when a switch was flipped for me. Once I heard that the main composer for the Super Nintendo DKC games, David Wise, was going to be returning, my hype literally could not be contained. The man responsible for DKC 2's flawless soundtrack is working on Donkey Kong again? Yes, please. Canopy Chaos, Busted Bayou, Big Top Bop, Windmill Hills, Grassland Groove, Abyss Abyss, Frosty Fruits, Seashore War, and just many more. The soundtrack is so amazing. My favorite part about the whole thing is that there are a handful of songs that are actually dynamically shifting depending on what happens in the level. That's really cool. And while I won't spoil what remixes are in the game, I will say that it's pretty excellent every single time. Overall, it doesn't top DKC 2 for me personally, but let's be real, that soundtrack is an impossible bar to top. As of late, Nintendo has pumped out games with simply fantastic soundtracks, and this is easily one of the best. David Wise, man, let me just, Okay, there's you, here's me, just, mwah, there you go, I friggin' love you. It's pretty fanboyish, but I really can't think of anything negative to say about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. The game is simply fantastic from start to finish, featuring some of the best levels in the entire series, impressive landscapes and just solid platforming, and a fantastic soundtrack. The load times aren't anywhere near as bad as some people claim, and being difficult is definitely not a negative. The only real issue that does come to mind is that it takes absolutely no advantage of the Wii U's gamepad. In fact, instead of mirroring the game on the second screen like Mario, if you play on the TV, the gamepad shows this, and then fades to black. And given the Wii U situation, I can't help but find that a bit awkward and ironic at the same time, especially coming from a Nintendo studio. But aside from that, if you have a Wii U, this is a must-buy, easily. I would even say it's better than Super Mario 3D World, but that's just me. Now, not too long ago, Retro Studios did confirm that they're working on a brand new game that may not be Metroid or Donkey Kong. So while I would love another game here to cap off a trilogy, I definitely want that Star Fox reboot a bit more now, please. Or it could actually be that Star Tropics reboot, because I will never let that dream die. But anyways guys, that is it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, and as always, Banana Slamma! I just had to do that.